People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, man. Come on. Lights, camera, action. People deluded. I'm back again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and in some cases, good night, whether you're on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't. Everybody get their creative juices flowing, talking points, questions, differences of opinions, thinking points. I hope you all have some, and it's all welcome. Now, obviously, it's the international break. Leaves a bit of a sour taste in Arsenal fans' mouths because, you know, on the face of it, 7 points from 9 isn't the worst, but it does feel like we robbed ourselves against Brighton because either half we didn't take our chances, and we was obviously robbed by the referee. Now, rules are rules. Again, if you're going to apply rules, I'd love to see them, you know, consistently applied and all of those kind of things. Arsenal tax Declan Rice was always going to get sent off. And on the topic of Declan Rice, Mikel Merino, I'm sure with it being just over a week until we play in the North London derby, we're all scratching our heads and thinking, who is going to be in the middle of the park? You add into that Tomiyasu and Gabriel Jesus' injury issues. Life is coming at Arsenal Football Club very fast. Again, on the topic of Arsenal, after this international break, as you lot know, the games are coming thick and fast. The Champions League as well as the League are coming into play. There'll be some League Cup games. I think our game against Bolton's been moved. Come January, the FA Cup comes in. So yeah, whether we have the squad depth and the quality in depth to really challenge on all fronts, or at least challenge for, well, bring the FA Cup home, go as far as you can in the Champions League, and hope that, you know, in the third time of asking under Mikel Arteta, we're able to win a Premier League trophy in that regard. So yeah, big up yourself, Montreal. Forgive me for mispronunciation, whatever you said. Nice show with Troops. Big up Troops. Big up yourself for tuning in, man. Make sure you lot take that in. We were so complacent against Brighton. Kavanagh messed up our game. And Kwame, you're bang on the money. For me, that's what people don't understand. Two truths can live in the same realm. Obviously, the ref did make it all about himself. He is the major talking point, and he is the main protagonist in the story, which is Arsenal Brighton. But that can live on one realm. And also control the controllables. Now, granted, we shouldn't be in a scenario where referees are inconsistent and they're able to change the game. But it only when it was 11 versus 11, we was great. When it became 10 against 12, including the referee as well as the Brighton players, you know, we were struggling. And for me, in terms of the controllables, I think we had chances, even down to 10 men between Kai Havertz and Saka, and actually Odegaard and even Trossard, either side of the first and second half. We had opportunities to kill the game and get the 3 points and then still get at the referee. But at the same token, I also feel we didn't defend well enough. I think, in fact, that's not really true. I think by the end of the game, we defended very well. I think we were rattled. The 10 minutes that followed after Declan Rice's sending off, I think we were fragmented. We were disorganized. We didn't have that compactness that we had. Again, it's 2 points drop. Now, again, you know, well, you're fighting a team like Manchester City, and you've got Liverpool doing what they're doing in the Premier League. There's no easy games. Every point matters. We might look back in May in that Brighton game and think, oh, what happened there? 2 points. Is that not the same amount of points that we missed out of the Premier League trophy? So all we can do is bet it back, and it starts in the North London derby, if I'm honest with you, man. Ain't seen one of our men pull out yet. Pause, Toby. It took me a while to clock what you're on about. You're obviously referring to international duty. I must admit, there is no higher honor than representing your country. I don't think Arsenal should ever be in a scenario where you're not allowing players to do such. But at the same time, where you're seeing Ollie Watkins, Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, who's not really played, if that, for Manchester City so far this season, when they're all pulling out. I mean, Declan Rice, you're not playing against Spurs, so you can keep ticking over. But Declan Rice and Saka, can you pull out of international duty? Thomas Partey would be the one for me. You know, again, I'm just hoping he comes back from Ghana in one piece. So I think you're right. Would you start Sterling next week? It's a difficult one, man, because obviously up until a point, Raheem Sterling was taking part in pre-season preparations for Chelsea. As the seasons come into play, he's been, he's had his number 7 shirt stripped, which mentally I have no issues about Sterling. I think he's a resolute character and he's shown that in a number of years, but he's had that stripped, not been involved in the last 3 games. How fit is he? I don't know if he will play any part, if Arsenal have any under 21s fixtures. I don't know really. How many minutes has he got in the tank is the question. Now, where you look at our front three, I think everybody has to accept Kai Havertz plays up front. Obviously, there's a reality Kai Havertz plays in midfield in that Spurs game, but I would assume Kai Havertz up front. Obviously, Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side. The left-hand side is where there's a lot of questions. You know, you in theory, if Gabriel Jesus is fit, Trossard, Martinelli, now Sterling, and I might have missed someone else out. You've got 4 players, and I don't think anybody's grabbed that left-hand side shirt with both hands. I wouldn't say no. You know, Spurs are naive. They do play a high line. Saka and Sterling gives their fullback something to think about. Getting in a foot race with them two is a problem. Obviously, Sterling has the bit between his teeth because he wants to play games. What better way to prove Chelsea wrong or start to prove Chelsea wrong than performing in North London derby and endearing yourself to the Arsenal fan base by scoring or assisting or having a significant game in that regard? It all depends. We all know, again, I don't want to kill Trossard because I think it's unfair to just say, yeah, he started against Brighton, he didn't do what he did. That narrative that he's a super sub remains, but it's the reality. You played against Brighton, you weren't quite the hero like he was the week before. Martinelli's struggles have followed him. Could Sterling do any worse? You know, Postecoglou's not an idiot. He knows all about Raheem Sterling, and everybody knows Raheem Sterling signed for Arsenal, so they'll do their homework in that regards. But being devil's advocate is that could be something a bit of a left one, really. And then you would have Martinelli, who, you know, realistically, if you're a fullback, you don't want to play against Martinelli in the dying embers of the game, and we all know what Trossard brings. So it's a big call. I think it is something. And you know what? Kai Havertz, Saka, Sterling, I think they could give Spurs troubles. But the issue is midfield. Do you go with Jorginho? Do you go with Partey? Do you go with some other options, really? Do you put Odegaard there and Trossard in the 10? You know, do you put Kai Havertz next to Partey with Odegaard, put Sterling, Trossard, or fit Gabriel Jesus up front? And this is the issues with having a lack of depth, because you start to, you know, to kind of patch over one crack, you create another one. Now, we all know in reality, Kai Havertz is up front. He drops into midfield and players are not stationary, really. That's just where they start. But I definitely think it's something to consider, mainly because of that high line that Spurs play. If they get in a foot race with us, we'll cause issues. You know, whatever you said here, Zinchenko, Partey, Odegaard, I think it's a bit too lightweight, man. I know Odegaard isn't dynamic and flying into tackles, but he puts in a shift. Partey, you'd have to chaperone that midfield, really. And I do think off the ball, Partey can be a bit naive. Zinchenko has played in midfield for Ukraine, but if you go to sleep at fullback, you're going to go to sleep in the middle of the park. And listen, Zinchenko's won several trophies. He's obviously got good mentality, all of that jazz, but I don't think it's a game for you. A tough game away from home, I don't think it's a game for you to start. You then have options like some people even saying playing Timber in midfield. And owing to what we've got at our disposal, is that the worst thing? No doubt Arteta must be flirting with, do I go to a back 3? I don't think we'll do that. But yeah, Spurs will struggle to break us down in that regard. But it's the transitions. I'm not going to lie. I definitely hate Kai Havertz in midfield. I prefer him up front. I don't think that's him. But I think we could get away with it, if I'm honest. You know, a part of me wants to play Jorginho and Partey, but I'm not 100% convinced. You put Kai Havertz there, you don't really get him involved in build-up play. You tell him to just put in a shift, mucking defensively, do all that stuff Kai Havertz does, and running behind. I think we could be okay for that game. I actually expect Kai Havertz, to play in midfield, if I'm honest. But then again, who goes up front? You know, if you got who goes up front, do you go with Gabriel Jesus if fit? Do you go with Trossard? Do you put Sterling in the false 9 and have either Trossard or Martinelli on the left? I'm not sure, and it's one where smash the like button, people, and keep your thoughts coming. I'm happy that I'm not Mikel Arteta, because it's a difficult one to really piece together. Sterling has got to start. Martinelli hasn't been performing. Plus, with Havertz potentially in the 8, Trossard can claim the 9. That's the thing, though. I do think Trossard can play as a false 9. But a part of me feels against Spurs, you need an organic number 9. Like, again, I know he's not at the club, but I think it'd be a game. I know it sounds mad, but I think it's a game Eddie Nketiah would have to start. Someone who is an organic 9. Obviously, if we play the way we play, then the false 9 thing can work, and mainly on the transitions, because Spurs are very naive in that regard. Set pieces and on the transition, beyond the obvious, we can harm Spurs. And you can't write off anybody, but realistically, regardless of if it's Jorginho, Partey, Odegaard, Kai Havertz in midfield, or any sort of thing we can piece together, looking at Spurs' midfield now, again, It's not just about names, and they still have good players. But should we really feel we can't get a result against whoever they've got in midfield? Bentancur, he's not looking fully fit. Maddison's a good player, and he showed us in the North London derby at the Emirates. If you mess around, he'll do stuff. But really, it's not like we're playing Rodri, Gundogan, and Kevin De Bruyne. You know, teams with less have given Spurs issues. Respectfully, Newcastle had Gamara didn't have the best of games. Quality player, obviously. They had Longstaff, Leicester, whoever the hell they had in that game. They had enough to trouble Spurs. So are we overdoing it? Now we all know the issues that comes with Kai. Kai is surprising Arsenal fans with his form. I hear it, Jordan, but I don't think anyone could be surprised by Kai Havertz now. You know, the Kai Havertz that turned around in the second half of last season has picked up where he left off, really and truly, and rightly so. He's one of the first names on the team sheet. Van der Ven is a doubt, right? Not a clue, if I'm honest. Kai Havertz is a striker. He should be left alone, but he might have to do a job today, man. Spurs are playing well, should have 9 points, but have been wasteful. Then how good have you been playing? They remind me of the early days under Mikel Arteta, where over the 90 minutes, there's some good, there's some bad, but ultimately they're not always getting results. You look at the, big up them against Everton, respectfully, not to discredit Spurs as much as I want to, or get at Everton. Everton have lost 3 games in a row. Forgive me if I'm wrong. They threw it away in the last 10 minutes. They're always going to push them to the side. The first half against Leicester in their opening game, they should have been 3, 4, 5 even up. They didn't. And then compare that to how they played in the second half. You look at the Newcastle game, where I actually think Newcastle were better than Spurs in the first half. Second half, for large periods up until Isak scored, I'm pretty sure Spurs fans thought they would get a feast of goals. So they're a very bipolar side. We need to kill them. And as much as we're better than them and we're ahead of our development, we still have elements of us of that in our game, really. Against Aston Villa, we nicked it, but we only really looked convincing when the first goal went in. Obviously, against Brighton, beyond the referee, it was a tale of 2 halves. Nothing really of note in that regard against Wolves. So you should have 9 points. We should have 9 from 9, but it is what it is, man. Kai done well in midfield against Liverpool in pre-season, but I don't really want to see that. And there you have it. For a game, I'm on it. For a game. And even if Kai Havertz plays up front, there will be a reality where Kai will, play centre midfield. He will move up front in the game anyways. And you'd imagine when changes are made, there'll be that. I actually would love to play Jorginho. I just feel if you go back to the game at the Emirates in the North London derby, when it's a chess match, when you're playing Liverpool or City, Jorginho's in his element. When it's an open kind of typical Premier League game, Jorginho is going to struggle. So you're setting the tools you have up for failure. And I think, to be honest, Partey's going to have to be even more disciplined anyways, but he's going to have a lot to do. So it's a techie one. Can see try Kai or Trossard in the 8. I'm not a fan of. I would rather Timber play in the 8. I'd rather Zinchenko play in the 8 than Trossard. And obviously, Trossard's a quality player. I just don't buy into this rhetoric of him playing as 8. You can play in the 10. You can play false 9. You can play left or right. I don't think the number 8 is Trossard's personally, but I'd love to be proven wrong. And Mbeumo strikes me as someone who'd happily sit on the bench at times for a big club. Actually, we'll get into it, but apparently Arsenal were keen on Mbeumo, man. So maybe, you should have sent that letter or something to Edu and we could have done stuff. Why do you think most of our fan base have turned on the players? You know how football is, bro. You know how football is. If we go and beat City, beat Spurs, go on a 5-10 run win, these are the best things since sliced bread. You know how it is. Fans are frustrated. A lot of fans don't want to apply logic. That doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong, but a week's a long time in football. A game's a long time in football, and it's an emotional game. The rhetoric I've heard on social media regarding Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, to a slight degree, Bukayo Saka, and even Gabriel. You lot were waxing lyrical a few weeks and months ago about these guys, about Gabriel's one of the best in the league, one of the best centre-halves. Odegaard is better than Maddison, is this, that, the third, so on and so forth. Man, football's a fickle game, man, and I think these Arsenal players have seen that. A lot of these Arsenal players were doubted at a time, and now people love them. Declan Rice, he's this, he's that. You are waxing lyrical. Man was saying I rate Declan Rice 100%, I do. He is not in the same level or the same room as Rodri. Fans were saying he's the best in that position, and then they've turned on him, and then they'll bread again. Really, a lot of fans were not keen on Raheem Sterling. I'm not saying you can't have questions. If Raheem Sterling plays very well for the next couple games, they're gonna say it's the best thing since sliced bread, man. Like it's just that, man. A dash of sports, big up yourself. Good evening, King Hope, all as well. Right back at you. I just want to mention that I'm looking forward to seeing Sterling in his first North London derby. So am I. But as we've been alluding to, does he start? Is he on the bench? Because he could be a good impactor. For me, I don't want him to. I don't think Sterling's here to sit on the bench. And I think that's great because as much as Sterling's down on his luck, we're not a rehab centre, or I hope we're not. Sterling has to earn his place. And I have to wonder, obviously, the Martinelli of a few years ago, different gravy. Trossard's a quality player. But what we're seeing right now of them two, is Sterling a worse option? Apparently, Martinelli getting the number 10 shirt. Well, he can't get it this year. Saliba gets into every single club starting 11. The rest maybe not. I hear that. Gee, some Arsenal fans are tapped. It's actually only been 3 games in. Just need to call. Because football's an emotional sport. Very few fans want to apply balance, which big up you lot, because that's what you're here for. There's reasons to be optimistic. There's reasons for concerns. We take what we take. It's a mixed bag and we move. Depending on some want to say, oh, it's only 3 games. Let's forget about it and just bury their heads in the sand. Some fans, obviously, everything's crap. We've bottled it with this. Let's throw in the towel, which neither are right, really. So it is what it is, man. It's an emotional game, man. Why do you think even Arsenal fans don't rate Saka but always rate Foden? Troops? Big up Troops. He rates Saka. I think that's harsh, man. Big up Troops. He defo rates Saka and he rates Foden. Foden's good on the eye, innit? Like, respectfully, like Foden's a quality player. Go and check out the stream I did with Troops. Foden's a quality player, quality, generational talent, one of the best English players, I think, in terms of natural ability I've seen. But I feel with Phil Foden, and listen, he's won the titles, he's played a key role. I think Foden could, but being devil's advocate, you take Cole Palmer and Saka right now. We look at what everybody's got to say about Gareth Southgate, which a lot of it is valid. Cole Palmer in his little minutes was decisive. Saka was decisive. Foden wasn't. Foden, it's been 2 Euros. You've been the poster boy. Nobody said anything. Even at Man City. If things go left for Man City, it's the Haalands, it's the Rodris, it's the Kevin De Bruyne's, it's even Edison. It's these guys you're asking questions. Arsenal, you're getting at Saka. You're not asking that with Foden. And I feel the goalpost changed for Foden. I think Foden is afforded a lot of luxuries that other players ain't. When Foden goes wrong, oh, it's the system. It's not doing this. It's not doing that. People don't care about that for many other players. Foden's a quality player. But I believe if you're spoken about as being world-class, you got to do world-class stuff. Nobody asks him to do that, man. Morpheus, big up yourself. But sometimes the emotions can be too strong depending on what the point is. It's football. Football is an illogical sport, or better yet, supporting a football club in itself. You and I, we follow these teams. A lot of people will go through life, go through puberty, be a young boy, a teenager, a grown man, die, have kids, grandkids, move houses, everything. But the one thing that in theory is going to stay is your football club. There's people out there that will cheat on their wives, will never dare to wear a half and half scarf. Football in itself is an illogical sport. Think about it. It's been days after that Brighton game. We're still up in arms. We're still vexed. So, yeah, man. No matter what greatness Saka achieves in an England shirt, he won't get his flowers. He won't get his flowers, but who cares, man? We know Saka's good. You know Saka's good. I don't think Saka is losing sleep over anything. People like Lionel Messi, even though I don't think there's question marks, people question Messi's greatness. There's been many a better player than Bukayo Saka that have been questioned, and there'll be people after that. So all you can do is do your thing, man. These refs, I saw an interview with a ref explaining why Rice got a red card. The same guy was explaining in another video with a team in the championship. They flip-flop and it's paid propaganda, bro. The only referees that are honest are those that don't work for governing bodies, are currently retired and are purely pundits. The rest are doing a lot of nonsense. Referees are protected. If Mikel Arteta or the players said genuinely how they felt about that referee's decisions, it's fines, it's bans. And I don't think that's right. Referees are human, so there is an element of human error. They have a bias. We all know that as Arsenal fans. We know how our unbeaten run ended. We know probably as we move to the Emirates Stadium, the connotations around us being soft. It literally resulted in, several leg breaks. Aaron Ramsey, Abu Diaby. There's defo another one I'm missing out. Eduardo, how many times? And I'm not being funny. People call Arsenal fans conspiracy theorists, and don't get twisted. A lot of Arsenal fans are soft. They are like the boys who cried wolves. But we've seen against Crystal Palace, James McArthur volley Bukayo Saka's calf. We saw last season Kovacic get away with murder against Odegaard and Declan Rice. We've seen several dodgy decisions. Let's not even get started on the topic of stupid yellows. Remember Martinelli a few years ago, was it away at Leeds? We have to just get on with it. Control the controllables, man. And it's not right. But yeah, man. And like you said here, you notice they always bring a rule in when it's Arsenal. Do you remember Martinelli getting 2 yellows and what? Yeah, man. It's the Arsenal bias. DG could even start. It's risky, but as an Arsenal Academy grad, he knows how important the North London derby is. I think it could matter to thrive. There's never a right time to play a young player. There's never an ideal conditions, especially if in theory, on paper, we're trying to win titles and stuff. And I would back him to hold his own technically, but I think it's a lot psychologically. I think it's a lot mentally. I think it's probably too much physically at this moment because of how Spurs will probably set up. Would love to see him get minutes. And at the end of the day, if you're in the squad, it doesn't matter if you're as young as 16, 17 like Ethan, or who's the oldest in our team. Probably Jorginho, give or take, with Thomas Partey. But I don't think I don't think it's a that one for him, if I'm honest. But would love to see him get minutes, man. So it is what it is. What I think is that sometimes it can be hard to get a point across, and so a point might be misinterpreted too. That's true, but as I always say, I don't tell people what to think, just think. You know, you're never going to convince someone any different, man. You know, maybe it's because obviously I'm making content and I welcome debate. I'm not right, you're not right, I'm not wrong, you're not wrong. So I'm a sort of person in life. If I have an opinion, you give me a point of view or some information that I wasn't noticed to, then I'll change my thoughts. But many people want to be wrong and strong, so you just have to get on with it, man. I think Sterling's loan season, if on the left, will serve for great competition for Martinelli to hopefully push him. Yeah, and you'd imagine, well, you never know, but you know, Mikel Arteta ain't gonna rest Saka, but there's scope to rest Bukayo Saka as well in that regards. I am keen to see him as a false nine. I mean, I'm not trying to see Sterling as a 10, but would it be too far-fetched to think there's some depth there? Because a lot of, you know, the summer, we was all talking about wingers and strikers and eights and, you know, even goalies to a degree. But a lot of us were speaking about, well, if anything happens to Martin Odegaard, Smith Rowe's gone, Fabio Vieira's gone, what happens there? Yes, you've got young Ethan, who for me, that 10, you should get your minutes. Could you argue Sterling could do a thing there? Now, it's not Martin Odegaard, but you get the point. And also Trossard could do a thing. Too risky to start Ethan. But I hear you, Jordan, and I agree. But being devil's advocate, everything we do in that North London, in general, is all going to be a risk. But anything we do in that derby is going to be a risk. If you start Partey and Jorginho, that's a risk. You start Zinchenko in midfield, that's a risk. You move Martin Odegaard into the 8 and the 10 shots free, that's a risk. You put Kai Havertz in midfield, that's a risk. Everything's a risk. So being devil's advocate, I agree with you because we've gone over it, but everything's a risk, really and truly. Sterling is playing in the middle. You know, Arteta is going to try a new formation. I mean, more formations, more different ways of playing makes us less predictable, because it's not a diss to say teams find us out, because we've obviously got a brand of football. People know set pieces. You've got to be even more spot on. Mid and low blocks, these are things to play. But I actually think teams, and being at the Brighton game, teams are doing a really good job stopping us so far playing from central regions. The Brighton game, they did a very good first 20 minutes. We'll cut them open regardless, but they did a really good job with Belemba kind of standing on Martin Odegaard. Obviously, it's not necessary. I don't necessarily think it's because of us, but we know what Unai Emery is in terms of structure and things. You could apply that to Villa to a slight degree, Wolves as well. But this comes with the entities now of where we are. You know, we do the inverted fullback stuff. You know, David Raya can do all those passes. You know what Kai Havertz, whoever plays up front, does. You know the positions that, you know, probably the width is more held on the left than the right. This is what comes with the territory, and it's down for Arteta and the players to keep evolving. Something Wenger did for a while greatly. Ferguson did. And in the modern day, Klopp did as well. Pep Guardiola, the best way of that, really. So, yeah, man, more competition for places. And Sterling's one, I mean, I'm quite, not a fence sitter, but I'm quite balanced in a lot of my opinions. Raheem Sterling, he looks sharp in training. Us fans are dying based on the videos and the conclusions we're drawing. But Sterling, for me, there's let's start with the bad. Obviously, people will sit there and say Chelsea reject. I don't agree with it, but he's 29, he's done, he's this, that, and the other. I do agree with, you know, it's not a panic buy, but there's elements of panic. Clearly, we didn't, Edu come out and said it weren't our first choice. Clearly, you weren't able to do what you wanted to do in the market, and you had to find a contingency plan. And in a best case scenario, Sterling hits double figures for us. There is a reality you could sign him, but at the end of the day, unless he takes a wage cut, you've put him into the shop window to go Saudi, to get a new future at Chelsea or go elsewhere. Now, the things I like about Sterling, you've got fire in your belly. Chelsea rebuild, they're choosing people like Madueke, who's a good player, and Mudryk over you. You know, you've been banished, your number 7 shirt stripped, alienated away from training. The manager's come out and said, I don't bet on you. You've lost your England spot. People are saying you're damaged goods, you're finished. And Sterling's a resolute character. He's been dealing with stuff of this nature and some in his personal life in the papers at 17. Whatever you say about Raheem Sterling, you do not play at 17 years of age to 29, still in the top 6 clubs if you haven't got something about you, which he has. And we will talk about wanting to win stuff. He's got 4 Premier Leagues. Also, you know, you look at Kai Havertz, you look at Mikel Arteta, Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice. Probably, I want to say that feels like there's someone else, Zinchenko and Jesus. He's worked with certain people before, and he is Premier League proven. So it definitely could have been better, but I don't think it's the worst. I think one thing that goes against Sterling is because I won't quite say we made a mess of the window, but we were scrambling for stuff. You know what? A week before the window was shut, what did we do? So I think because of how the window ended, that's probably why people are onto Sterling a bit. We had 200 million to spend, but I think KSI, I thought you meant the YouTuber, paid themselves back after they loaned us to pay off the stadium. I'm done with the Kroenkes. To be fair, I hear you, but the Kroenkes have shown us their model, really. You know, they're self-sustaining, which we've kind of gone back to. They put certain people in place and give them a necessary framework and then freedom, and they've done that. And I hear you. I'd love to be, you know, I'd love Saudi owners, because if we had deep pockets with the logic that we apply, the Eze's, the Isaacs, the Nico Williams, then we'll do great stuff. But we don't have that. And as much as I think the sentiment around the Kroenkes have changed, we haven't really kicked on, essentially. But I can't blame the Kroenkes if they sat there and said, you know what, there's been a lot of spending. We need to do better for not just this window, but in years to come, in terms of future proofing and getting decent money, in which we've got a positive net spend. Regardless, yes, you can't bring on positive net spend off the bench, or you can't play positive net spend next to Partey in the North London derby, but you have got that. And have Mikel Arteta and Edu maximize their resources? Now they're doing well, but have they maximized their resources? We've seen a lot of turnover with defenders and goalies. You know, we spent nothing to do with Havertz. He's doing his thing. 65 million on Kai Havertz. Have they got the best out of everything? Now mistakes can happen. And are the Kroenkes the reason in the last 2 years we didn't win the title? No. The year before, the one that's just gone, we were playing Rob Holding at centre half. You know what time it is in that regards, and we collectively fell off towards the end. Last year we were great. Obviously, the December period came back to bite us on the arse, and the silly games, well, the 2 games against Fulham, mainly the one away was terrible, but it was very frustrating at the Emirates. For me, the North London derby, where we dropped points from a winning position, very harsh. But Anfield, I'm kind of forcing it. The West Ham game at home. So I would say the biggest thing I could say about our title challenges in these last 2 years is that before I can look at Man City and how good they are and what Pep's got and all of this stuff, we haven't won the Premier League title because of ourselves, directly or indirectly. So I hear it. They're just happy with top 4, probably. DJ, I think the value of having Sterling in the squad could unlock the potential of Martinelli. He's a proven winner for a reason. How does it unlock Martinelli? I'm sure there's a lot you could learn and whatnot, but I think we're at the point now where Martinelli just needs to, I don't know what you do, but buck up your ideas, man. That's true as well, with the way Sterling came in, being offered to us, and him being a last gasp choice puts a bad taste in people's mouth. Of course it does. Now, as I said, you made something happen, because whether you're convinced with Sterling or not, and signing people to not have, you know, signing someone because it's better than not having anyone is a dangerous territory to go through, which, to be fair to the club, there's been a couple windows we've shown we won't act, mainly in January, if we don't see something that makes sense. But that is what goes against Sterling. When you're being linked with Nico Williams, how far that goes, I don't know, because for me, based on what the Athletic have now said in hindsight and what we've probably seen in the tabloids, how keen was Nico Williams on Arsenal? If in theory, I think he would listen. We've got an exciting project, exciting young project. There's money to be earned in the Premier League and living in London. Obviously, the left-hand side and the right-hand side, you can mix it up. I'm sure Mikel Arteta, being a fellow countryman, there's a lot of intangibles in that regards. But at the same time, it appears he wanted to go to Barcelona. If it weren't a Barca thing, he wanted to stay at Bilbao, play in in Europe and things. So how far we're going after a player that we can't get, it don't really make sense. So yeah, man. You mentioned wanting to see Sterling the false 9, which I think would work versus Spurs. I want to see him on the left, but occasionally could do a thing. With Havertz in the 8, seeing we have no Rice for the North London derby. I hear it, but then the only thing that scares me, and we have to do it anyways, is the moving parts. Suddenly, when you take Kai out and you bring Sterling in, there's the fluidity, which is probably non-existent by our own standards, only intensifies. I'm afraid Saliba is going to Madrid next summer. If he does, find the next one, man. It is what it is. It's about time Sterling played for a big club. I hear it. Keep your thoughts coming. I definitely think we did a mess in the window. If Sterling was fine with Saudi, we'd be in the mud. Probably would, really and truly. But these things happen. If Trossard didn't want to sign for Arsenal, then we look even sillier not getting Mudryk. But it is what it is, man. We just have to get on with it. Sterling is just going to have to firm the Havertz treatment. No player coming from Chelsea is getting respect. I think Palmer would if we could. If he came from City, even on form, we'd be gassing him like we did with Trossard. That's true. And as I said earlier, you won't be the first player nor the last that signs for a football club and isn't really rated, and then people change their minds. Benjamin White's testament to that. Odegaard, to a slight degree, is testament to that. Aaron Ramsdale, because it's very easy to forget people didn't even want him. Kai Havertz. At the time, I thought it was quite harsh, but Jorginho, people, not everyone was convinced on that. So we'll have to see, man, really, really and truly. It's an interesting one, but yeah, man, I think the window was a mixed bag. I think outgoings, The Ramsdale deal, yeah, he ain't been playing on a regular basis and whatnot. But for me, Ramsdale is a better keeper than when we signed him. We should not be making a loss there. Fair enough. It is what it is. Eddie and Nketiah and Smith Rowe, great deals. I think on the face of it, there are certain situations where selling loan players, I believe we could have got more money or should be getting more money, but can't go wrong making a profit and making bank in that regards. But I guess we identified and addressed all the areas I wanted. It's not a long-term option, but I called for another attacker. Sterling is there. I know he's injured through no fault of the clubs, but Moreno, I wanted a midfielder. That's there. We were told we needed a left back, and I'm happy with Calafiori just as a player anyways, and what the depth he gives. That's great. But at best, I don't think the depth really improved. There's some quality players that can push on the first team and ultimately indirectly more players that Arteta trusts. But how big is the squad? Bearing in mind we've got injuries already. Is it bigger than last season? Now, you lot know me. I would have loved Emil Smith Rowe to stay at the football club. It is what it is. But Smith Rowe, Fabio Vieira gone, versatile attackers. Eddie wanted to go and we got good money for Eddie. Even though I would have loved it if this game came in when the window was still open, Eddie just play up front for an hour against Spurs and there might be something to do with Kai in midfield. But mixed bag, man. We didn't get our first choice targets by the more publications and whatnot. Obviously, we scrambled around for a goal. Even that, like, yeah, you got 35-year-old Neto, which you could argue if he wants to stay on the bench for another year as a second or third choice isn't the worst thing because I'm sure he wants to play, but he's realistic about his scenario. I said it when we were linked with that Garcia lad at Espanyol. If you believe he's the guy, great. You know what? Amazing stuff. But at 23 years of age, really just starting to play at the highest level in La Liga and whatnot. For how many years would he be content to sit on the bench and be second fiddle to David Raya? So, yeah, man, we did well to adapt, but I don't think the depth, for me, the main thing was the depth. Edu spoke about it. Mikel Arteta spoke about it in the summer and through the season last year, said we've got one of the smallest squads in the league. Has the depth really improved? We've got, when everybody's fit, if everyone's fit, which when and if throughout a season is dangerous, great, but the depth doesn't really do it for me, if I'm honest. And you just got to keep everything crossed that everybody stays fit, man. Shout out yourself, Riley, man. Big up yourself. What is the general consensus regarding the Sterling signing? Are fans not feeling him? I mean, I wouldn't be able to quantify that. I'm in no means justified to do that. Smash the like button, people. We're slacking in that regards. Everybody else, one love. I wouldn't be able to quantify that. Yeah, Neto's cup tied, so he can't even play in the League Cup. But I wouldn't be able to quantify that. But I would describe it as mixed. I actually think there's a lot of people that are optimistic, regardless of Sterling arriving at the club. But naturally, there's the Chelsea rejects. There's a question marks about how he ties in long term and what it means for our first choice targets just this summer and beyond and whatnot. So I think it's mixed, man. But as you know, football fans can change their opinion very quickly. Do you think, where's that comment gone? Raya plays the cup games. He has to. Would love Tommy Setford to make his debut. But yeah, man. Come on, none of them are winning. Let's be real. Where are we in financial 3-year window? Is this the third year? So next year we start fresh. Not a clue with the finances, man. Have noticed Sterling's training on the right. He should be training on the right and left. Even in that video, you're training on the right and the left. He should be. All I want from Sterling is runs in behind, try and be devastating 1v1, but mainly just runs in behind, back post. Sterling tap-ins, back post is cash money. Late runs to that back post. Half of Raheem Sterling's goals, I promise you, go. I don't know about Chelsea, probably Chelsea, but go and look at all his goals for City. Half of them are just runs off the ball into the back post or balls in behind. That, listen, just do that. That's all I need, Sterling. That's all I need from you. And please, I know you scored a free kick for Chelsea, but please don't take free kicks. We've already got Partey, who did score against Villa, blasting out the stadium. Nobody's trying to see Raheem Sterling take a free kick, man. The only issue for me is that we left it to the last couple of weeks to get deals done. Moreno and Calafiori are both really good signings, while Garcia and for Ramsdale would have been ideal. It would have, and in the club's mind, that would have been ideal. If the club had their way, you might have even got, Bintonelli from Chelsea, Sam Tickle from Wigan, Dan Bentley. So clearly there was that ethos about signing a homegrown keeper in some capacity. Do you view Sterling as backup for Saka on the right, or do you think he'll be prioritized elsewhere? Indirectly, everybody that can play in Bukayo Saka's position, you are backup for him. But I think Sterling's a starter in some degree, and he obviously is going to have to earn his right in that. Naturally, Kai Havertz has solidified his place. Saka has definitely solidified his place. It's open season on the left when you've got Martinelli like this, where you've got Trossard, which is very harsh because Trossard was a big source of our goals, but he's not really a starter, really, in Arteta's mind. Martinelli started more games last year, regardless of his form. And then, yeah, so naturally, that's where the open season comes. So, yeah, man. I like the fact Sterling could be the treat we needed. I think you mean threat. I think Sterling is back up, but on the left is a strong front three. It all depends on the game states. Because again, I wouldn't discount Gabriel Jesus being thrown into the mix, if I'm honest. The only way to keep players is to become serial winners. Top players are drawn to clubs that win. The problem is getting there, which is true. And I think for the next year or two, we're cool with Saka, Odegaard, Saliba. Like, they're young players developing with the team. But as we've seen with Omri and mainly the Emirates era, you get to a point where they're like, okay, when I'm in my mid and late 20s, I've only got one career. Do I keep it moving? Even when, you know, we've never had a strong European pedigree, but you go back to the Invincibles, for those of you that are older than me and myself, Patrick Vieira always wanted to kick up a fuss to leave and go Madrid and half of these things. Half of these legends of clubs, Wayne Rooney tried to leave Man United enough times. Lampard tried to cut bare times. Gerrard tried to cut from Liverpool bare times. Obviously, we've gone over Arsenal. So even on the best of days when your team's winning stuff, you can't really keep people. You know, Rodri's being linked to Real Madrid. Could you blame Rodri for being enticed? And he's won everything there is to offer at Man City, really. So be interesting. But as you mentioned, the main thing is getting there, and it would be nice to get there, really and truly. I'd rather, again, I think Arsenal are more likely to win the Prem. I think the Prem is improbable. The Champs is impossible. And again, from you're in it to win it. But if you offer me the Champs or the Prem, I'm picking Champs every day of the week. Every day of the week. Name a fruit better than a mango. None. Unless Guinness or sugarcane count, but none. Mango's the best though. How many passes we really to the back post to convert chances is rarely. I hear you. But that Saka ball to Kai Havertz is cash money. So there is something for Saka, for Sterling at that back post. I'm telling you, Sterling, you know what? Sterling's first goal, he's going to tap in from the back post. It's cash money. Sterling can bag some fantastic free kicks. That one shocker deceives. There's a good few calm free kicks he slotted last season. Big him up, but forget that, man. Forget that. But I'd love to be proven wrong. Sterling, you need to make sure you're in training. How long is the loan for? A season, isn't it? You never know. Things could be extended. It's not the same, but Odegaard joined us initially on loan. Again, the dynamics are different, but he joined us initially on loan and it became permanent. You can't rule out Sterling joining us permanently. Of course, his form would have to be out of this world. Obviously, there'd have to be a serious willingness from Chelsea to negotiate, and they must do, because you went from paying 300 grand a week to whatever you're paying him now. The reports say they're still paying him 10 mil, for the rest of the year. You never know. His form might change things, or Maresca might get the sack, or he might have a change of heart. But yeah, man, you can't rule out him staying. I don't think so, though. But it would be Arsenal to do that, if I'm honest with you. I just hope it works, because I'm tired of the Chelsea rejects and stuff. And Sterling's a player I like, not just because he signed for our football club. Like, he's the same age as me. Obviously, he's born in Jamaica. Obviously, he's Black British kid. There's a lot to like about Raheem Sterling. And for me, Sterling is to a degree, Bukayo Saka, but he's up there with the Rashfords, the Sanchos, where by all means criticize fairly their footballing ability. But we all know what the papers have to say about them. So naturally, you gravitate towards people like this a lot more. Beyond the obvious of me wanting him to succeed for Arsenal Football Club, just want it to be for him, man. And he's got every reason to. So let's see what's going on. We're going to be shaking during the game. DG, what would you value Havertz now? I don't know. I'm not a transfer man, but I'd say he's worth the 65 million we had initially bought him for, in the sense of nobody cares about his price tag again, man. Nah, DG, you're older than our new T-Rex. No, I'm not. He's 30 in December. I'm 30 in April. He tried it. Good try, though, man. Allow me, man. Allow me. I just don't think it will happen, as Chelsea be looking to get us back after the wages we are making them pay for Sterling this season. 200 grand a week on a player who's on loan elsewhere stinks. It's true, but at the end of the day, I don't think Maresca was keen on him, but I think he would have been someone that might have struggled for first team. I think it's a board decision. It's like, yeah, let's cut this Raheem Sterling thing and you're gone. And you're right. But again, Chelsea be cutting off their nose to spite their face, because in reality, if the man's not going to play for you, you need to get him gone. As much as Chelsea got more money than they can count, it doesn't make sense for them to play hardball over him. They should be jumping for joy. And they obviously were rivals of sorts. I know we're in the Champions League. I don't know where they are, but you want Sterling. Sterling has to succeed. There's only 2 games that if you're connected to Chelsea, you don't want Sterling to play well in, which he can't play in those games. He can't play the 2 games against Chelsea. So they want him to succeed, because it might tempt Arsenal to do business. Who knows, man? At Sterling, what next season he'll be 30, so he needs to do his thing. Come on, DG. Sterling has been training against kids. He's looked good, but we shouldn't be happy because of that. Yeah, I could be happy because he looks sharp in training, but I'm not doing too much. Odegaard, that man will cook. If you were to sell one of... Oh, this isn't going to be a good question. If you were to sell one of Saka, Odegaard, or Saliba, which would it be? Saliba. Because I've made my peace with one day you're going to play for Real Madrid. If I'm honest, I've made my peace. Saka, you need to stay. I know you're not going to, football, it's not like that, but I'd love Saka to be a one club man. Odegaard's an amazing footballer, and I guess we'll leave one day. But I've just made peace with the fact that Saliba is one day destined for Real Madrid. Sterling has a point to prove. He's going to cook if he can find a partner up front. Sterling's problem was that he was always left to create on his own front at Chelsea if he connects with Kai Moreno. But again, I would love to see a relationship on that left-hand side. Odegaard definitely. Odegaard to United. Oh, if I had to sell one of those players to United, well, to be fair, Saliba probably looked crap in that back line and that defensive structure. Saka probably wouldn't do his business. And where they've had Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford, Garnacho, Diallo, and all that, Martial, and all these generational Man United talents that have done a big fat fuck all, pardon my language, they'd be dying for Bukayo Saka, man. Remember them memes about, have you seen my son Bukayo? Have you seen my son Meno? I'd sell them Odegaard because they mess it up. Odegaard would have a destructive... If it's to United, I wouldn't want to sell any of them, but they've got a disfigured midfield. Odegaard wouldn't look good in there, much like half of the people. So, yeah, definitely wouldn't want to sell the others, man. No, to United, forget that. None, actually. In fact, there's a good player at Arsenal. He's on loan at Porto, Fabio Vieira. And do you know what? Arteta made a big mistake. Man United should buy the best left-back we've got on our books, Nuno Tavares. Would you like Rashford to Arsenal? I like Rashford, but it's going to be a costly one. You're on big wages. You still play the same way that you do at 18 years of age. I don't want to be disrespectful, but your footballing IQ is very annoying. I just like the raw materials Rashford has, and I'm mainly getting into that trap a lot of Arsenal fans do. Like Arteta can fix them, but probably not. And on one hand, if we're going to develop players, can we develop players that haven't got baggage? Like they might have come from a lower league. They just need a bit of polishing. It's like we're a rehab center. It's like, again, I'm not being disrespectful because I think Sterling will work out. Havertz has obviously worked. Odegaard's definitely worked. But we always have to find players that are down on their luck, feeling a bit sorry for themselves, got one foot out the door. It's long now, man. When Lokonga comes back from Sevilla, they can have him to replace Casemiro. Say what you want about Lokonga. I ain't seen him go out like how Casemiro did the other day. Ten Hag destroyed Rashford, but Rashford's been the same under all of these guys. If you were to bring an ex-player from 2010 to 2019 into this current team, who would it be? There's a lot of names there, man. My bias would have said Ozil, but the 10's position's dead. Alexis Sanchez. But imagine Alexis Sanchez up. Alexis, big up Kai Havertz, but Alexis, go be a false nine. Whoever's on the left, Saka on the right, we're cooking. A fit Santi Cazorla, welcome. When did Cesc leave us? Life comes at you quick. When did Cesc Fabregas leave? Boy, to be fair, he's a snake, but Van Persie, I'm sure he was there them times. When did Cesc Fabregas leave Arsenal Football Club? Oh, my browser's froze. That's annoying because we're going to get into the talking points and stuff in a moment. Yeah. Cesc counts. Cesc Fabregas. Imagine Cesc Fabregas in that midfield. Sanchez would be lit, man. Odegaard, for me, it's the fact he doesn't play well when a physical player marks him. He isn't easily replaced, so Saliba can be a shout. Now, I wish I saw your reaction to Van Persie getting Man United. I don't know about any other Arsenal fans, but I weren't upset. Now, obviously, he's going to your rivals, your friends and family that support United. It is what it is. But for me, I think personally, Van Persie was crystal clear. He's like, I'm trying to do one thing. Arsenal not trying to do the next. Juventus were onto me. Arsenal didn't sell me there. So Alex Ferguson is saying X, Y, Z. I want to win a Premier League. I'm cutting. And that goes for Cesc. That goes for Ashley Cole. That goes for Thierry Henry. I was very understanding of the situation. Like, as much as you love Arsenal, you've got one career to live. And if Arsenal are going one way and you're trying to go another, like, what's going on? The fact that we didn't have to pay a loan fee and only paying less than half his salary, he was a risk worth taking. This will first this first bit of stability he's had since he left City, Shelley and Fraser. Man, I almost feel bad about the slander names for Raheem Sterling now, man. Bellerin for what? Even Prime Aubameyang in this team. To be fair, Aubameyang be right. Is Gyökeres joining in January? I wouldn't hold my breath. Cess would be lit. Cess, Santi, Alexis, easy. There's probably a next one I'm missing out. But yeah, man, Santi, Cess, midfield generals, it goes without saying. Like Alexis Sanchez, even a prime Aubameyang up front, where we're living. Even Aubameyang, you could operate off that left. There must be someone else. I'm missing a lot. Left field choice, a fit Jack Wilshere. He'd be frustrating because I think people kind of gas Aaron Ramsey up, big him up though. Aaron Ramsey, left field choices. Who else is there? If Nasri counts, Nasri. So yeah, man. I like how balanced you are. Big up Rants, man. Man said hi, Arteta. Alex Song for what? Alex Song was shit, man. Arsenal's always been a stepping stone. But it's such is life, man. If it's not Real Madrid, you're a stepping stone, isn't it? It just is where it is. As long as you win what you can win here, which hasn't been the case, go do your thing. You got one career. Like these man, even the ones that grew up as Arsenal fans, you think 9 times out of 10, this is a job. As much as it's romanticized, then there's a reality where in an alternative universe, says Fabregas, Thierry Henry, all of these guys stay until their mid-30s. What are you going to get? But the fans are going to love you. You're going to get an applause. You're going to get a testimonial. You're going to get one love for the service. But nobody cares. Once you've retired, life goes on. No one cares anymore. So go and get out what you need to get out of your career, man, and have no regrets, really. Rather, like, even if you make the move to these big clubs and it flops, which you see, at least you tried, rather than what if. Looking at certain news things, people, team news and ticks, again, no disrespect or praise. I don't know if it's facts or was, but the ITKs of this world are saying Arsenal's data team were really, really high on Brian Mbeumo, who's a lot younger than he looks, and it was a deal that the club was strongly considering. However, a move was always unlikely this summer. So Mbeumo would have been a good option. Versatile, scores goals, French and whatnot, but, well, he plays for Cameroon, but French as well. Don't really do much for me. Like, it's predictable that these sound bites are going to come out after the window. Like, if a deal was always unlikely, maybe that's because of Ivan Toney or our finances, or whether it was attainable. That's great. Fans are very, very high on Mbeumo. I'm sure he's in a lot of FPL teams. That's great, but he's not here. Apparently, he said on Nico Williams, a week before the window ended, as far as I had heard, Arsenal hadn't had a no from Nico Williams. He never said no, but his total package demands, wages and bonuses were going up as the window ended. Maybe that was a way of saying no without saying no, which I think we was always on the back seat for that. So you either find alternatives or you forget about it. That doesn't help me either. Arsenal explored deals for both Rafinha, who's doing quite well for Barcelona, and Ahamadou Onana this summer. However, both wanted to be guaranteed starters, something Arsenal could not offer. So where does that go? I'd have preferred Onana out of the two if I had to pick one personally, people. Rafinha does look good. He is doing his thing, but we just would have had more versatile midfield options. And had we have got Onana, do we sign Mikel Merino? Because I would have loved 2 central midfielders, but I've said it before, I think it would have been a bit naive, even of myself, to assume Merino, let's just say for this, Onana, Thomas Partey, Declan Rice and Jorginho, 5-man fighting for 2 spots. Obviously, you could manage the minutes of Jorginho and Partey. It probably is naive, but it is what it is, and it didn't come to anything. Osimhen's joined Galatasaray. I thought when he said Didier Drogba was his idol, I thought he meant going to Chelsea, but there you have it over there. This was behind a paywall, but Arsenal have an article's come out in the Daily Mail regarding Raheem Sterling, people, and our finances in the summer. No clue why this isn't letting me thingy, but nonetheless, all this is annoying. Arsenal's dealings are underway. We all know he's treading a fine line with FFP. Liverpool bought 1 player this summer. City didn't really do much. But Arsenal, even after spending more than 100 million to bring in 4 players, including Sterling's loan, are primed to go again. What does this mean? I think they're in a strong position compared to their rivals, said football finance expert Kieran Maguire, who says Arsenal have plenty of headroom with regards to PSL, which is great for years to come. But now we've got what we've got. That gives them flexibility. Come January, if they want to buy a player, they're not one of those clubs that will be constrained, assuming players are available, which I hope Edu's getting a move on in that. And they won't be one of those clubs in June 2025, as we saw at Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa, Everton and Leicester. Leicester, who bust case. Chelsea, who have sold some hotels. Newcastle clearly got around that because they didn't have to sell Anthony Gordon, having to get rid of players because of a genuine danger of breaching PSR. I mean, big us up for being competent. We know there was... would it be a fire sale? But either way, there was significant sales. Smith Rowe went, Eddie Nketiah went, Ramsdale went, Mika Bereth went, Brooke Norton-Coffey went, Ronell Waters and Koza Jubri apparently were getting 500k for that. Again, they left for free. We did get some money owing to Amari Hutchinson's move to Ipswich. And there's another, someone went Luton, someone that we've sold. Is it Mark McGuinness? Apologies. We've definitely sold a young player a few years ago and they moved and we had a sell-on clause there. So we have to see. They've managed to move on players who realistically would not be part of the starting 11. You reckon? What about the squad? The fees they've generated are decent, like Nketiah going for 30 million. Maguire estimates Arsenal will also make an extra 4 million from having an extra home Champions League group stage game this season in the expanded competition, which would help offset some of the wage rises that come as a result to returning to Europe's elite competition. This is great. We all know we could get better at doing that sales. You know, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain was one of ours and is still one of ours record signing. Mainly been our academy grads, Smith Rowe and Nketiah have gone for decent money. Iwobi and Joe Willock in years prior. So this is great, but it don't really help us. Arsenal were content without bringing in a forward, having earlier considered Benjamin Sesko and Nico Williams until Sterling became available late on the final day. Edu has learned and grown in the role. The one thing I would say, you've done well in terms of incomings and you could do better. You've done okay of recent in terms of outgoings, but you could do better. The one thing I will give everybody, but the one thing I'll give Edu his flowers is the contract situation. In many years prior, the Odegaards, the Salibas, the Whites, the Sakas, Martinelli when he was doing his thing, so many of these players would have ran into the last year of their deals, and according to week in, week out, we know what time it would have been. So I big you up for that. Beyond that, I think there's a lot more we could all do, really and truly. So this just seems like a think piece. It's great. You know, finances are under control. We've done well in terms of outgoings. Beyond that, it's kind of dead, if I'm honest. We all know we're due some money from Chido Obi Martin's move to Man United. I think that goes to tribunal. We've let a goalie rejected our scholarship offer and signed for Aston Villa. I think we got £1 million for that. So, yeah, and we all know Calafiori, Mikel Merino and David Raya have all signed for Arsenal Football Club. Eze is the one that's been spoken about in today's media, really. And you would have seen yesterday the chairman of Crystal Palace spoke and apparently his release clause reactivates. Romano has said, I want to clear up any confusion regarding Eze. There was a release clause in his contract with the Eagles, so the situation this summer was never about whether the club would have accepted or declined offers for Eze or not. If any club had come in and paid the release clause, which apparently City are looking at him next year, there was nothing Palace could have done about it, and the decision to move would have rested with Eze himself. No club did trigger the release clause, and there were no concrete contacts, so in the end, that was the reason he remained at Selhurst Park. Man City for sure had him on their list in 2023, and it's true that Spurs appreciate him, but there was never any formal bid presented from either club or any other this summer. As Steve Parrish said, everything was quiet, people. So we'll have to see in that regards. The ITKs of this world have said Arsenal to target Eze if all goes to plan next summer. Club feel another good season maturing in the Premier League will make him a valuable member of the squad. I mean, the man's 26, he'll be 27. How much maturing is required? Looked into the fabric of a deal this year, but deemed they'd like him to play another year at Palace. Did we deem he wanted to have another year at Palace, or did we have the finances? Player knows of interest and is certain to leave next summer, with both Arsenal and City set to battle for his signature. I would love him at the carpet. And once again, apparently his 68 million quid release clause will reactivate, people. So we'll have to see what happens with Eze. You'd imagine speculation over him and Mark Guehi will persist at Crystal Palace, not just in the season we've got, but come next summer as well, people. Arsenal had been given optimism in their bid to sign top attacking target Nico Williams, despite failing to land him this summer. We all know he's got a 50-odd million release clause. Barcelona will probably be involved. Arsenal are seriously considering whether to up the ante for Williams next year, according to Give Me Sports sources, because he was their standout attacking target throughout the summer transfer window, and they were given fresh optimism that he'd be open to completing the switch, as he opted against totally ruling out the North Londoners. The Gunners are aware that the winger has a release clause worth in the region of 50 million written into his Athletic Bilbao contract, and they'll continue to monitor his performances over the course of the campaign before potentially leaving the Liga outfit helpless by stumping up the cash. Although Arsenal did not receive true encouragement from Williams' camp to follow up their interest with a proposal, Give Me Sports sources have been informed that he has not shut down the prospect of making the move further down the line, and the capital club are circling after Sterling has only been brought in as a short-term option. Give Me Sport recently revealed that Williams' wage demands were one of the factors that made it difficult for Arsenal to pounce ahead of last week's deadline, but they have refused to lose hope of eventually convincing him to walk away from his boyhood Athletic Bilbao and test himself in the English top flight for the first time in his career. I mean, it'd be lovely to sign Nico Williams and Eze, but it's irrelevant for a year, folks, people, at the very least. Gyökeres has spoken, apparently, people, and said, Sporting wanted most of the starting players to stay and held us tight. That's how it turned out, but I enjoy Sporting very much. So for me, it was no problem to stay. I mean, we've heard credible interest in Sesko. We haven't really in Osimhen and Gyökeres, so it was probably fans wanting it and paper talk rather than tangible proof of sorts where he's concerned. Of course, you want to play at the highest level. The 100 million euros exit clause was probably a bit too much because nothing came of it. Of course, there's a lot of money, but we'll see what happens next window. Nothing happened and it feels great. Like, I had a pretty good season. So yes, that's probably why there was simply no move, but that's what Sporting thinks I'm worth. Then you have to respect it. I enjoy myself very much in Sporting and can't complain about anything, which we'll meet in the Champions League. So it's absolutely no problem for me to stay. Of course, you aim to test other leagues in a higher level, but I have no stress. Fair enough. Big up yourself on that. Nobody cares what Zubimendi has to stay at this point. Once again, Arsenal are effectively paying no loan fee and paying less than half of Sterling's wages. Chelsea are effectively paying Sterling in the region of 10 million to play for Arsenal. Go get your money, man. Essentially, Thomas Partey, Romano has said Thomas Partey ended up staying at Arsenal this summer, despite it looking at one point like his future could be in doubt. Some fans have asked me about his situation again for January, as he'll be out of contract next summer. For now, my information is that no discussions have taken place about that. Sources on both sides guarantee they have not decided. It was a quiet summer for Partey. He was never actually in talks to leave. So the full focus now is on this season, and they'll decide on the future. Now, I think a lot of you, like myself, probably expect this to be his last season. Nobody cares about Chido Obi Martin. You play for United now, so yeah, you do your thing. Again, conversations are said to going to take place over Fabio Vieira, who has gone out on loan to Porto, returned to Porto. The situation with Fabio Vieira is also a simple one to understand. Firstly, it's time for him to return to playing regular football every week, which is the expectation with the loan to Porto, and something he hasn't been able to achieve to this point with Arsenal. The loan deal will also allow Arsenal to monitor his progress over the course of the 2024-25 season and then reassess things again in 2025. At that point, there will need to be a conversation between Arteta, the players, and his reps. By then, the attacking midfielder will be 25 years of age, and a definitive decision about his career, one way or another, will need to be made. I can guarantee that no plans are in place at the moment, and no final decision has been made for Fabio Vieira. This is why it's a straight loan. But I mean, you've got to play out your skin or your future's done, really. We've gone over Nico Williams before. We've gone over Gyökeres already. I mean, this is about Petit talking about a mistake. We don't need to get into that. Timber's been speaking about playing with no fear. Shout out to him for that one. We've gone over that with Raheem Sterling. What is this? Arsenal said to have scared two interested clubs away from making a deal. Who's this in relation to? Kivior. I mean, Tierney's been registered in the Champions League. There was also talk of Jakub Kiwior departing this summer, with the Poland international having fallen out of favour at both centre-back and full-back. According to a fresh report from Tuto Mercato Web, a number of clubs actually approached the Gunners to sign Kiwior in the window just gone. Bologna, who just sold Califuria, said to have made an approach. They were reportedly joined by Inter Milan. There were reports towards the end of the window that claimed that Arteta had changed his mind over Kiwior and decided not to sell him. I mean, we need bodies, really and truly. January be a one to watch. Again, our Champions League squad has been named, people. The young players don't necessarily need to be named. They could be named 24 to 48 hours, I believe, before we play a Champions League game, so the Ethans of this world could, in theory, play in the champs. Again, you'd expect the normal first teamers. Again, we haven't got another keeper, so Tommy Setford is there and been registered. Kieran Tierney's been listed. I think that's just because we can register him, if I'm honest with you. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play. Big up Neto, he said, I'm realising a dream. Our goalie said, I'm really, really happy. I'm realizing a dream in my life, a dream to come true. I'm really, really happy. We always want to go forward, to move forward in our life. It was my objective as well. Always when I receive the opportunities, I don't like to lose the opportunities. So I received the opportunities. I tried to understand everything that's coming in a positive way, and I have to enter the train. Big up yourself. He said, I'm a really lucky person, to be fair. I could play in the biggest clubs, huge clubs, but I have two dreams as a kid: to play football, to play in a football team. It was my team in Brazil where I grew up and became a professional footballer, and also Arsenal. And now I'm realizing it. I'm a really lucky person. Is that just something to say, or is it something? I'm not sure. It came from when I was younger, watching the team Bergkamp, Eduardo, Gilberto Silva when they won the league, and Thierry Henry. When I was growing up, my generation was watching them, giving them that unbelievable game, and I always dreamed to play here. I had the opportunity to train here a few times in the training ground, probably with Brazil's national team, and always kept that feeling in my mind. Now I'm realizing it. And then it was obviously spoken about, you know, he was on the opposite end of that dramatic game against Bournemouth. So yeah, big up Neto, man. David Raya and Bukayo Saka are up for Premier League Player of the Month awards. Let's make sure we get voting for our guys, people. Raya has been nominated for Save of the Month twice, owing to the Wolves and Villa games, which in a nice way, you don't really want to see Raya recommended for these things because we probably call him into action already. I don't think Mikel Arteta will win it. I think it's between Arne Slot and Pep Guardiola, but Arteta has been nominated for August Manager of the Month, people. Happy birthday to Bukayo, by the way. 5 Arsenal players have been nominated for the Balon d'Or: Odegaard, Saka, Declan Rice, Saliba, and big up Mirinola, who's just joined us. Out of these lot, though, for the men's team, respectfully, Odegaard, Saka, Declan Rice, and Saliba, who do you lot think in theory would have the highest chance of winning? Because I think it's Saka or Saliba. And I think Saliba, obviously being great, I think Saliba is more respected in the European game than Bukayo Saka. But what goes against Saliba is obviously defending isn't cherished in today's day and age, if I'm completely honest. Big up Carvajal and Rodri because they do the darker elements and they'll probably feature high up the Ballon d'Or list. So yeah, Declan Rice, shout out to you. But yeah, and you lot need to stop violating people. What content creator has tried to make sure you lot's international period is amazing? Do you know how many videos have been released for you lot, people? So make sure you're supporting the hustle. Again, the links are being provided. What other videos have I got? Not even I can catch up. There's been a lot of talk about Raheem Sterling. I did a tactical analysis of such, people, so make sure you take that in. And I reviewed our transfer market as well. And there should be a August player review video coming out as well. I don't know if it's actually thumbnails been done and whatnot, but that seems to be everything at this moment in time. Saliba has more consistency of good games / defenders and clean sheets. Yeah, but Saliba's got, I hear you, but Saka's surely got the biggest case study. Don't forget, for England as well. Neto mentioned all the teams he played for as being a dream. Big him up. Just from seeing Sterling's training vids, that T-Rex can move. Pause. Big up yourself, Social James. Tierney back to training. I wonder what the future holds for him. You could be an option off the bench. You could be an option to help us close games. You probably, if it might get a League Cup run out. If we need to rest players and we've done our job in the Champions League, that's great. But I can't imagine you play too much football from now to the end of the season, end of January, really, or end of the year to January. I hope this loan of Vieira includes a bulking supplement. I hear it, man. He's a good centre-back, one of the hot prospects in the league right now. Anderson, his former colleague, could have done better than Fulham. I must admit, I thought he would stay at Palace. He's returned to Fulham. I'm sure he was there already. Why did Ramsdale get sold? Raya's been getting more minutes and getting picked ahead. Raya's the number one. I don't think Sterling, I don't think Ramsdale can afford to go for another season being second fiddle, man. Saw that pic on your screen. Sterling likes football so much, he even sits on the football. DG, what was the last game you really enjoyed? A quality football match? Big up yourself, Yusuf. That's a difficult question. Watching United get bad, but that wasn't quality. Probably at some point, you know what? I wouldn't be able to give you a game off the top of my head, but it probably would have been Spain at some point during the Euros, man. If I'm honest, we need to steal Endrick of Madrid. It's a dream, man, but he's not going to go. Swap and Nana and Bremo, good player, especially on the counter. You are right. Bellerin is way better than Ben White. I don't think so, but I take your word for it. Facts, DG. To the players, it's a job / career. To us, the fans, it's a player with the love of the club. Whoever it is that comes in, we need the gaffer to put pen to paper, and we need to see improvement on the last year. I hear that. If Arsenal, followed me, don't win any trophies this season, I can actually see Arteta and some of the lads go. I disagree, man. I don't think internally, it all depends on context. If we fall off a cliff and we capitulate, then yeah, there's questions. But I don't think Arteta is going to live or die by if he wins a major honour, and nor so the players. I love Gabriel a lot, DG, but in all honesty, do you think we could upgrade? In theory, you can upgrade on anyone. I do need Gabriel to get back to his best, but I'm happy with him, man, if I'm honest with you. Big up Sarcasm City for the raid, man. Big him up. Big up yourself, Max. Sterling doing very well to dodge United. Could have easily picked up a paycheck, really. But even that, how much were United really in for him, really and truly? Because the papers say one thing. Obviously, we're not privy to it, but what's actually going on in the world of football must be crazy. Like, I don't know who the sporting directors of the other clubs, but if you're Edu and these guys and you just scroll through Twitter or on the newspaper and you see Arsenal linked with this or Arsenal linked with that or whatever club linked with whatever, you must have a little bit of a laugh and chuckle to yourself, if I'm honest. It's got to be. So who knows, man? Saka 23 now. DG can't be calling him star boy anymore. I mean, he's a star man. And boy, you lot still talk about Rashford like he's a baby. Martial had a Balon d'Or clause and now he's gone. You lot pretending Ahmad Diallo's even going to talk to Saka. Boy, stop. Shh. You lot got bigger things to worry about, United, man. Nobody rates Saka, but all they do is talk about him 24/7. It's cool, though, man. It's cool. Happy birthday to the star boy. And if Saka would start for your team and be your best player, please keep him. If Saka has scored against your club, shh, please. No Arsenal players are close to the Balon d'Or. Probably not. Definitely not. But if they get nominated, it's a good look, but can we just win some collective trophies? It's all nice seeing Team of the Year and PFA and Balon d'Or nominees and them things, but can we get a Prem? Can we win a champs? Like, I'm 30 next year, man. Like, God, please. I know we all got to die one day, but can I just see Arsenal lift one Champions League? I promise I'll become a villain. I'll be the worst content creator if Arsenal get one Champions League. You think I care how much Liverpool have, United have, Chelsea have, Real Madrid have? Make Arsenal get their hands on one Champions League trophy. And I'll be a legend. I saw your tweet about Saka. I know, man. Big up you, man. You're a good guy until I remember you support Man United, man. Which Man United's a big club, a glorious club. You see your fans, though? Pieces of shit. Congratulations to Saka. He got that calm Virgo vibe. Let him speak on the pitch. We don't do the goalposts move with Saka. Saka doesn't move me. Saka doesn't do skills. Like, bro, how much man have you seen come and do a million step overs and get clamped? Who cares? Saka, you keep being the Black Iron Robin. You keep doing whatever Arteta's demanding of you. You keep doing what you've been doing up until this point and better. I don't think anybody cares, man. I wouldn't trade Saka for half of these guys, man. Saka doesn't. That's the funniest one. Saka doesn't move me. Well, you don't care. Who cares about you sitting in your bedroom trying shit? The hell? Right. He's paid to be decisive. So many man hating on my team. The moment we lift that Champions League, it's the end. No one will tell me ish. Could be worse. You could big up tapping toes, but you could be like Spurs. I know you lot all saw that vid. But yeah, people, on that note, you lot check out the rest of the content. It's always a pleasure to be here with you lot. If there is anything of note, you know, you'll get vids and live streams and things of that ilk. Check out the live stream I did on Troops' channel as well. Make sure you're subscribing to the socials and following the platforms. Everything's in the description. Most importantly, stay safe, stay blessed. And again, people, have you lot seen Jadon Sancho do anything like this in the Prem? Because United fans are talking nonsense.
Against this right back, Charlie.